All right, we are live. I hope this time it's working, and I guess we got to have our intro music.
Can't forget the intro music.
We got it, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. We had some technical difficulties, and it said it wasn't broadcasting. So, except for on YouTube, and so there's probably a single soul who was on YouTube was like, "What's going on?" But everyone on Facebook, you're probably going to join us late if you had saved our broadcast on our Facebook page. You're probably wondering when we're going to start, and hopefully Facebook will alert you that we're here and we're live now. Jay, you made it. Yay!
Yay.
So, yeah, I don't know what happened. Do you know what happened, Melissa?
I don't
Gremlins.
know. A weird twist of fate.
Gremlins were in the technology, and that's why it wasn't working. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. We got a really good show today. It's basically a follow-up from last week where we were talking about how do you actually get hired. And we just took all of that content and then added a whole bunch more content. And we've created this, I don't know what you call it, a guide? A hiring guide?
Yeah.
a super guide to how to actually get a job. And this was a lot of fun for me to help put together because, yes, Jay, we are doing a gift card giveaway again this week. This was a lot of fun for me to put together because my background is in recruiting and staffing. And so I spent a long time. I've helped hundreds and hundreds of people get jobs and prepare for interviews and work on the resumes and get people interviews. And so it was kind of cool to jump back into the past and dig up some old resources, which we're going to talk about today. But first, a couple announcements. First announcement is we've got our free laptop promotion is ongoing. So again, we always say, if you know anybody who is looking for a career, a better job, wants to earn more money, is struggling to gain traction or wants to grow their career, recommend them, refer them to Academy of Learning Career College, and two things are going to happen. One, you're going to get $500 when they start their program. That's a thank you from us to you for referring your friend. And two, they're going to get a free laptop when they start. And that obviously allows them access to, if they're going to study online, for instance, allows them to access and complete their program with a laptop. But the other cool thing about it is if your friend already has a laptop, they can give it to one of their friends. So that's the first announcement. The second announcement is we've got our coding class. Is it next Sunday?
Oh, gosh.
The 27th. Is that next Sunday? It's not this Sunday.
Oh, my gosh, you're right. Yeah, it's next
time
Sunday.
Flies. So next Sunday, free coding class. Again, if you have any friends that are interested in a career in technology, this is the thing to check out to see if you actually like coding. It's a 1 hour workshop Sunday afternoon. I think it's at 2:00 Mountain Time. Is that right? 2:00 Mountain Time. You'll get a software program to download that allows you to write code. And the instructor is going to teach you how to write, or at least an introduction to HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, I believe. And you'll actually build a functioning web page as part of the workshop. And so for those that are interested in a career in web development or software development, this is how you find out if you'd actually enjoy it. Because if you hate it, don't take that program. Don't go into that career. But if you love it, this is a career that pays really, really well. So we're really excited for that free coding class. We got the link. Let me, where's the link here? I'm going to post it in because I've got it. Free coding class registration link. Boom. Left my heater on. Sorry. Okay. So free coding class. And the final announcement for today is how to win the $25 Amazon gift card. And I have to admit, we didn't even talk about it.
No, but I have something written down. I prepared.
All right.
I'm ready.
Okay, go for it. How can somebody watching, how can Jay, who was the bright and early first one to join us, how could she win? How can anybody who's watching this live with us now or watching the replay win $25?
So since this is like a huge resource guide like we talked about, and everyone has to apply for jobs at some point in their life, I thought it would be a good one for people to tag their friends, because at some point someone's going to need this information. So you could tag your friend in the live stream, and then you are entered to win the $25 gift card.
Nice. Okay, so if you are watching this now or the replay, tag a friend who needs some tips or advice on how to get a job. Specifically, I'll give it away now. We are giving away a free resume template. So if you don't know how to write a resume, we'll show you today. And it's an editable, you'll create a copy of a Google document. So you're going to get that. You're also going to get a 3-page how to prepare for an interview guide. So if you know anybody who needs a job, is interviewing, plans to interview, wants to write a resume, tag them. And is it every person you tag, you get an entry?
Yeah, I like that. That's fun.
All right.
That's
So if
good
you tag
time.
10 people, you get 10 entries to win $25. If you tag one person, you get 1 entry. So tag them on whichever one of our streams. We've got this is broadcasting on 6 of our campus Facebook pages and YouTube. So whichever page you're on, recommend your friend check out this live stream, and they will also get to download these free guides. And with that, I think we've done a pretty good job introing the topic. Melissa, why don't you take it away and walk us through what is this big old guide that you've put together for us?
Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen, I think. I'm very
Yes, you are.
I know all the techie things, obviously. So, from our live stream last week, obviously we talked all about the art of getting hired, and there were a lot of really good questions. So we wanted to make sure that we answered all of them and then gave a lot more value because, like we were saying, everybody has to interview at some point. So it's really good to know. So we're just going to walk through it. There's a bunch of stuff. It's really, really big, but not in an intimidating way, in like a full of really good, awesome things kind of way. I
Yeah.
think so.
Hey, Melissa, do you want me to put the link to the guide in now or after you've walked through it?
Let's put it in now because then
All
people,
right.
when they have
And
it,
if
then
you
it's
want to
there.
check out the guide, you can actually follow along with Melissa. She's going to have it obviously on the screen. But that link right there is going to be the link to the guide that Melissa's walking us through right now. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Interrupt as needed. So, I am the gift master, but that's not what this is about. I just got really excited to see Joey. But when you're looking for a job, and this is something that I learned from Jamie last week, actually, because I've never worked in this the staffing industry, but there are a lot of jobs that never actually make it to the job boards, which I thought was really interesting. Because even when you look, there's so many things out there, but there's so much more going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. Hey, for instance, like we're hiring. I don't know if you even knew that, Melissa. Maybe you
I had
did.
no idea.
But I'm not posting it. I'm going through my friends trying to find a very specific kind of person.
Good to know. Good
Yeah,
to
so
know.
it's true. It's not just fluff. I'm not putting up a job. I don't even have a job description. So lots of companies are just going to go through the network before they even think about posting a job. Like, why would you? If I've got a friend who I could hire into the role, I'm going to go to that person before I spend $600 on a job posting.
Well, I mean, that's how I kind of got this job because my friend's little sister
It
worked with
is.
Jamie, and then she connected Jamie and I, and then here I am.
That
So
is true. We
living proof.
did we post the job for you though that you applied for? I don't even
I don't
remember.
think I don't think I ever saw a job description until after.
That might be true.
Yeah. So yeah, lots of things going on behind the scenes. So when you're looking for a job, you have to keep in mind that there is more than what you are seeing. So if you are looking and you're feeling like there's nothing that really matches what you're looking for, do not despair. There are other things out there. So here are some ways to network, because that's kind of what we're talking about, is that networking is a really, really important way for you to kind of get your name out there and see what's actually available beyond what's online. So for networking, we have the chambers of commerce. And for those of you watching, if you didn't know, most, if not all, like municipalities and cities, I would guess, have a chamber of commerce.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like a gathering place for local and small businesses. Right, Jamie?
Yep. Yep.
Perfect.
They have meetings, they have resources, they sometimes get free promotions. So lots of business, especially small businesses, benefit greatly from being part of the Chamber of Commerce.
And something with small businesses is that they're often very like family oriented, and they would like to know who they're hiring first. So going to the chambers, talking to the people there, meeting the people and businesses in your community is a really good way to start letting people know that you're looking for work. And that doesn't have to start when you graduate or when you've moved on from your current position or any of those things. It can start right away. So if you're a student, it can start while you're a student, and then you could be graduating and getting a job, or you can be starting that job search whenever you're feeling like it's the right time.
Yeah, you know what else is a good thing that obviously it's not in the guide, but you just made me think of it. There's other small community-run groups that are worth checking out, and one that's actually quite popular is
Mhm.
Toastmasters. Have you heard of
Yeah.
that, Melissa?
I
It's
actually did that in high school. Not
oh,
that you
did
could
you?
tell.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of people, and Toastmasters will. It's basically an environment where you can learn how to speak in public, and it's I've actually sent or I've had colleagues go because they were afraid of talking in front of people, and they went to these events to build their public speaking skills.
Mhm.
But the people that you meet, the networking opportunities are fantastic. But the other thing that you could do is, and I believe you can find Toastmasters, but meetup.com, is that what it's called? Meetup.com. You can find groups for all sorts of things that are meeting in your local area or city, and meetups are typically free. So there could be a group of yoga enthusiasts meeting somewhere, or hikers or runners that have a meetup that is public and free to attend that you can find at meetup.com. But sometimes professional associations will organize groups and meetups that way. I remember going to a number of them when I used to recruit in the engineering space, where
Mhm.
they'd be like the engineering meetup. Young Engineers was one that I would go to. And you just show up, and sometimes they're at a pub or something, or sometimes they're at some other facility or at a company, and you just go and you meet people. So networking, yes, great. Chamber of Commerce is one, but there's so many other opportunities.
Mhm. Even like on Facebook and stuff, there's so many communities that you can join to meet people.
Yeah.
Another one is a LinkedIn profile, and again, if you haven't heard of LinkedIn, it's basically like Facebook, but with a tie. It's like fancy
Yes.
Facebook and for for businesses and people to kind of network that way. So I wouldn't say that that's a great one to start with if you have never made a LinkedIn profile before, but if you have a LinkedIn profile and you start building your community, and that could be your teachers, that could be your coworkers, and all these types of people, at that point, it becomes a really useful tool to be letting people know that you're looking for work again, because maybe no one in your immediate network has a job, but maybe someone they know is looking for a job, and then they can connect you that way. So it's kind of like a digital resume.
Yeah, if
Plus,
you're not
it's
on LinkedIn, just at least go set up your profile. Actually, active networking, again, to Melissa's point, can be something that might be daunting if computer skills aren't your forte. But as a former recruiter, that is the first place I went to find people. I would much rather go find somebody through LinkedIn and call them than try and navigate the 100 resumes that was coming in, because I can actually search specific things. So basically, yeah, you're taking your resume and putting it into a profile so that recruiters can find you. But it's similar to Facebook in that you can go find people and actually get introduced to some of their colleagues, or you can reach out to them and say, hey, I see you're working at ABC company. Who would I talk to? Or are you hiring, and who would I talk to? Can you point me in the right direction? That's how it was designed.
Mhm.
It is turning a little bit more Facebooky. Like you can probably scroll through a feed and find like Gordon
Get them
Ramsay
some
or something randomly on there. But
motivational quotes. Yeah.
yeah, it's a must. You have to be on LinkedIn.
That was part of school for me. That was literally a whole project. It's like, make your LinkedIn profile. We will give you marks. And I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough.
Yes. Yeah, it is a must.
Okay, and then the last one is about how we help for our students getting jobs. And we talked a little bit about this last week. And it's just about how we network in the community to help our graduates and students find positions. So instead of just, here's your diploma, good luck out there, waving them into the distance, we build relationships with employers so that when they have jobs, they reach out to us because they know that our students and graduates are really, really good at what they do, and then we can connect them that way. So we're always looking for opportunities to build those relationships in the community.
Yeah, there are some of our programs that literally have a 100% job placement rate, which means every single graduate gets hired. And that's because we know the employer that you'll be working at before you even finish graduating. And oftentimes that's also the case with our practicums, where part of your program is actually working on site somewhere to complete your training. And most or many of our students end up getting hired right there. Like that is your foot in the door. So actually going to a career college can be networking in and of itself because of those relationships.
Hmm. And that is networking. And then the next one um, is really important. And it's actually figuring out what you want from your career, because there are so many different things that work in a job. Do you want to work from home? Do you want to work in an office? Do you really like people, or would you rather, be behind your desk, like graphic designing all day? Although I'm sure that's actually a probably very people-y job. But there are a lot of things to think about, like your benefits or the company culture and opportunities for growth. Like, do you want to get in a job where, you're happy in your position, which is totally cool, and you just want to work really hard at that one thing, or do you want to grow in the job that you have? So taking the time to think about, what you want, not just right away from getting the job, but what you want in 5 years or 10 years is really important when you're out there job seeking, because it's like the stepping stones, and you have to like keep that in mind as you move forward.
Yeah, and I think we brought this up briefly last week as well, but this is why it's so important for our admissions advisors when they meet with a prospective student to go through the career consultation with them. Because if you start going through a program or start pursuing a job that you're actually not passionate about, um, even if one, it's going to be hard for you to graduate. If you start studying something that you're really not interested in, and let's say you're just doing it for the money, it's going to be hard to graduate. The coding class that we brought up is a great example.
Mhm.
If you are like, oh, I understand that being a web or software developer is going to make me good money, and it's true. I mean, you can entry level start at $60,000. That's pretty good. Um, but if you're not passionate about it, it's the schoolwork itself is going to be hard. So it's going to be hard to graduate. But that shows up in your interview.
Oh,
Like there's
100%.
such a difference. And I remember interviewing people where someone would come in. I'd interview two people in a row, and the one person's just passionate about the industry, about the role, and you can just see like they love what they do. And the other person's just, well, yeah, I do it. I'm capable, but
Here for the
I don't know.
paycheck.
I don't really care. Yeah. Who am I going
Yeah.
to hire? I'm going to hire the person that lives and breathes that, or who is passionate about the work that they do. And if you pick the wrong career, that's going to have an impact on your confidence and on how you portray yourself in an interview. So yeah, picking the right career is extremely important.
Mhm. Yeah, and you spend so much time at work. Like, you spend at least 40 hours a week doing work, and a lot of
Yeah.
careers, you want to like, something that we talk about a lot is, like, continuing, to learn, and that would also suck, if it was something that you weren't interested in, like, be like, "Oh, now
Yeah.
I have to, do more marketing research," like, what a drag, and you don't wanna feel that either when you're spending so much of your time every week at your job.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Um, I think that's it for figuring out what kind of job that you want. And then we're going to move on to all about resume writing, cover letters, and interview tips with the pro with Jamie.
Yeah. So if you want, you can actually just open up. I don't have an example of a cover letter because, and I'll give the big tip about that. This is all written down in there. But if you want to open up we've got a template resume, and this is literally the template that I don't know if you can blow it up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to do
This
that.
is literally how I would write resumes and send them to managers. So there's lots you can Google resume templates and stuff, but this is like literally exactly what I would send hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands of times. What I would do as a recruiter is I would help people find jobs. So I would go to a hiring manager or at a business, and they would tell me what they're looking for. And then it's my responsibility to go find the right candidate. Well, I'm going to go through and find the right candidate. And then I need to make sure that hiring manager is actually going to interview and then hire the candidate I recommend. So I would take the resume from the candidate I found, and I'd put it in exactly this format. I would reformat it for them. And the reason for this, the way that this is structured, is essentially to make it really, really easy for a hiring manager to find the information that they want. So unless you're in, let's say, graphic design, maybe marketing, all the fancy schmancy graphics and images and stuff is just a waste of time because it makes it hard for a manager to actually read the resume. If you got to imagine, especially for some popular roles where they're hiring a lot of people, or they're a very reputable organization, they're looking at 20, 30, 40 resumes, and you don't want anything that's going to make it difficult for them to see what they're looking for. And so all you have here is very simple. You've got your name at the top. You've got your address, your phone number, your email address. Those are staples right across the top. And again, the formatting here is not like super necessary. If you've got something a little bit different, that's fine. But the structure here is what you want. So the professional summary at the top is essentially the first thing that you want someone to see on the resume. So this is an overview of your education, how many years experience you have in the particular industry you're applying to, any certifications or diplomas or qualifications that are responsible for the job that you want someone to see, and then the types of project, or you could say the types of industries or the types of customers. Again, so what you're doing is you're essentially summarizing your resume into 3 or 4 bullet points that if that's all someone reads, they're going to say, oh, I need to look further. So if someone is looking for somebody who is, I don't know, safety certified, put that at the top. If someone is looking for somebody who has a diploma in business management, put that at the top, even though your education section may be at the bottom. So that's a professional summary. The skills, this is again going to be based on the job that you're applying for. But if the job you're applying for requires 3 or 4 softwares and you have those, put them in the skills section. If they're requiring people skills or customer experience skills, put those in the skills section. And don't put anything that's not in the job description. So if there are 10 skills that someone is looking for in the job description, you're going to put 10 or less. If you have those skills, don't lie, obviously. You're going to put that in the skills section. Because what you're saying is, hey, hiring manager, you're looking for these 10. I have them. They're right here. And then they're going to see that. And they're going to be like, I wonder where they got those skills. And now they're going to continue reading the resume. And then they're going to go in and start looking through each of the jobs. So let me just walk through this one really quick. How I have this set up is the ideal way. And then we've got some questions. So we're probably going to come back to this later of why you may want to change it. But what you have is your company name. That's where you worked. The location, i.e. like what city that you were in. So ABC Company, comma, Calgary, or comma, Medicine Hat, or comma, Edmonton. And then you want to put your dates of employment. And what you want to do is you want to put the month and the year. The only time, and we'll probably come back to this later, the only time you don't want to put that in is if you're trying to hide something. But other than that, you want to put the month and the year. If you're trying to hide something, that's actually okay. We'll talk about that again later. But what you want to be showing is exactly how long, especially if, let's say it was 2020 to 2021. That could be a month. Like that could have been December 2020 to January 2021. It doesn't tell anybody anything. But if you worked, let's say May 2020 to December 2021, now you're actually showing how long you were actually there. That's why the months matter. And then you want to put your job title. And then we've got in this template, you'll be able to download a list of what types of things to put underneath there. And really, you only want the most recent 3. I think I only put 3 in this template, right? 3 jobs?
Yes.
Yeah. If you start going beyond that, what you have to do, if you've had 15 different jobs, don't put them all in for starters. It's just too long. But what you want to do is you want to start reducing how much content goes into them. So your first 2 or your last 2 jobs, let's say, you'll have a lot of detail in it. And then when you get a couple years back, literally just put the company, location, the dates, and the job title. You can add a little sentence underneath it, but no one cares. As a hiring manager, I don't care what you did 7 years ago. The only time that changes is if what you did 7 years ago is exactly what you're applying for, in which case build out that so that people can find the skills in your resume that you're looking for. But in most cases, you do not want to put all this detail for like 10, 12 jobs. It's just no one will read it. For myself, I'm how long I've been working for? 15 years or something? I don't know, longer than that. In high school, I worked at McDonald's. Then I worked at a company for 8 years. Then I ran my own business for a few years. Now I've been with Academy of Learning for 3 years. Nobody cares that I worked at McDonald's. Yes, it's part of my job history, but in most cases, I'm probably not going to put it on my resume. And if I do, all I'm putting on is McDonald's, the year, and my final job title, which was a swing manager. I'm not going to put that I was a crew and then I got promoted. Like, no one cares. Literally, no one cares about your experience at McDonald's. If it's from, again, 10 years ago. If that's the job you're in right now, yes, put the details. And a job like McDonald's, you build tons of really great skills, put them in there. But if it's in the past, cut it off. It's just no one cares. And then you've got your education at the bottom. The only time you're going to put the education up at the top is if you are applying for an entry-level role, which many of our graduates are applying for because they've just graduated and you've just graduated. In that case, put the education at the top because they're automatically going to see this is a recent grad. If someone's looking for experience, you probably want to put your education closer to the bottom so they start reading your resume. So for instance, if you just graduated 3 months ago and you're applying for a job that requires 2 or 3 years of experience and your education section is at the top of your resume, automatically the hiring manager is going to be like, oh, they just graduated. They're not experienced. Gone. You just missed your shot.
That blows my mind. I had no idea about that. That is good to know. Not that I'm looking
Yeah.
for a job, but it's just like,
Yeah,
I never thought about that.
Yeah, because I'll just assume you have no experience. You just graduated. Whereas maybe you just graduated, but you've done some work that's relevant. And so if you put the education at the bottom, then they're going to read through your resume first. But you still put at the top in that summary what your degree or diploma or certificate was in. So they see you are qualified, but they're going to have to get through your resume before they see when you graduated. And again, if you're applying for entry level, they're looking for someone who just graduated. So put it at the top. So that's some tips there for organizing the resume. Again, it doesn't have to be this way, but this way, this is all the information a manager is looking for. Like if I'm hiring somebody, I want to know how long you worked at each job, where you worked. So for instance, if all your jobs are in Toronto and you're living in Calgary, I'm going to assume maybe you just moved here, or I'm going to be a little bit confused. So as a hiring manager, I want to know the locations where you've worked. I want to know your job title. I want to know what you were responsible for. I want to know the things that you did. I don't care what your team did. I want to know what you did. And I want to know if there's key accomplishments. Did your office win Office of the Year? Did you win Employee of the Year? Did you work on a really cool project? Like that's what I want to know about your experience. So that's that. The other thing I'll just mention, and I think this is in the guide, but it'll take too long, is your every resume needs to be tailored to the job. We talked about this last week, and I'm going to give a quick hack on how you can actually make sure that you get an interview. So write this down. When you've got a job description in front of you, there's typically going to be a list of qualifications and a list of responsibilities for the role. And what often happens is, and I've experienced this myself, and it's frustrating. You read through a job description, you're like, I've done that, I can do that, I've done that, I can do that. Then you go through the qualifications, I've got that, I can do that, I've got that, I can do that. You submit your resume and you hear crickets. And you're like, but I'm perfect. I know exactly what they're doing. I've got all the, why didn't they pay attention? It's because they probably didn't really look at your resume. And so this is where the cover letter is actually good. And this is unconventional, but it's worked for me. I've gotten hired this way, and this is how I got people hired. So one of the things that I did as a staffing agency was I would always include a summary paragraph of the candidate who I was recommending. And so when I write cover letters, when I was looking for a job myself, that summary paragraph was my cover letter. So instead of saying, Dear Mr. Jane, I'm so excited about the opportunity to work for ABC Company. It's my dream job. I've traveled the world. I've done this. I've done this. I've done this. Look how special I am. No one's reading that. But what you can do is you can regurgitate the job description in your cover letter. So you have like a paragraph at the top, maybe, and then you can actually bullet point your responses to the qualifications. And so what that looks like is, let's say someone's looking for, I don't know, an administrative assistant, and they need Microsoft Office, Microsoft Excel. Maybe they even need to have done work with Canva to do some social media stuff, and maybe they need to use Outlook. And you're reading about all this in the job description. Well, in your cover letter, you're going to say, Dear Mr. Hiring Manager or Mrs. Hiring Manager, I'm so excited. This is what I'm looking for, blah, blah, blah. And then you're going to have a section, and it just says, here are some of the skills you're looking for that I have. I have Microsoft Office, Excel, Word, PowerPoint. I've also used Canva and posted on social media for my boss. I've also got this qualification and this qualification. And you're basically going in the same order they wrote the job description. You're outlining your qualifications. And you do the same thing for responsibilities. As I understand, Mr. Hiring Manager, you're looking for somebody who can do A, B, and C. Here's where I did A. Here's why I think I can do B. And here's where I did C. And so, again, I don't have an example because it's all based on the job description itself. Mm-hmm. But what you're wanting to do is you got to understand that when someone writes a job description, they're putting down what they want, and they're writing it in the order that they want it. And so if you can build a resume that mimics the job posting, they're literally going to be like, oh, this is exactly what I'm looking for. They haven't even got to your resume yet. They just recognize that you fulfill everything. And so now they're going to actually look at your resume. That's the goal. Bullet points are totally fine in a cover letter. What you're trying to do is communicate to the hiring manager, you should look at me. I understand what you're looking for, and I'm qualified. So
that's really smart.
Yes, and it worked. Mm-hmm. I got a job because of it. Ooh. Actually, the job I'm in today.
Whoa.
I did this.
One time on a cover letter, I was asked to explain my favorite Instagram page. It was really weird.
Yeah, I guess you have to follow instructions. So sometimes they're going to put those. Yeah.
Yeah.
My first job, I had to write a letter. I'm trying to think what it was about, but I had to write a handwritten letter. No, it wasn't McDonald's. Sorry, my first job out of college. I had to write a handwritten letter of why I felt I was better suited than anybody else for a role in sales. And it had to be handwritten. I got an interview and I got a job offer, but I turned that company down, ironically. But anyway, so yes, that'd be the only caveat to my advice on cover letters is read the job description. If they ask you to write a story about your favorite Instagram post, or if they ask you to answer a really kooky question, like tell us if you were a piece of fruit in a bowl of fruit, what fruit would you be and why? Like, one, maybe question, is this the right company to work at? I'm just kidding. Follow instructions. There's nothing more infuriating as a hiring manager when you put instructions and people don't follow them. Like if I'm hiring and you just don't do what I asked, you're done. There's no because I'm just going to assume that if I ask you to do anything at work, you're not going to listen. So this is why it's so important to read a job description and tailor your resume to that job description, to that company. Because if you do it, you'll actually read the job posting and maybe there's a question in there that you have to answer. And you don't want to embarrass yourself and lose your shot because you didn't listen. All right. I think that's enough on that.
Okay. You want to move on to the interview stuff?
Yes. So this is really cool. And you can download this. Again, if you want to win $25, the way you can win $25 is tag somebody in this live stream so they can check this out. Because the guide that we've commented in there, myaolcc.com, the art of getting hired. You can go to that link and you can find how to download the template resume and this interview prep sheet. And this is built, again, based on my past experience in the staffing industry as a staffing agent helping people. And this was every level of jobs. I worked in manufacturing. I worked in professional services, which is like corporate jobs. And I worked in engineering. So from, I guess, the general labor skill all the way to the super crazy intellectual people, I helped them find jobs. And the process for getting ready for an interview is the same for every single type of job. So if I had done the work as a recruiter and I had found the right candidate, I needed to make sure that candidate presents themselves really well to the hiring manager so they actually get the job. And this interview prep sheet is based on how I used to prepare candidates to actually walk into an interview. So first, I won't go through everything. You can read this yourself. But first, we got a list of things to do, things that you ought to do. You could use this as a checklist, but and then just like cross them off. Like you can print this out, but you need to confirm all the information. The number of times that I have watched people go to an interview and they can't find the front door, or they went to the wrong place, or they're in the right building, but they don't know in the building where to go. And I've done this myself. I've gone to meet a company and I'm like, I'm at your site and I have no idea where to go. You want to confirm, where do I park? Which floor are you on? Beyond just the address. And don't trust Google because there are some businesses that have multiple locations. And if you go to the wrong one, you've just missed your shot. So you want to confirm all of that information. You also want to find out who's going to be in the interview, because what you can do is you can go find them on LinkedIn and get a look at what their background experience was. So if you know that there's going to be 3 people in an interview with you, and one is an engineer, one is, I don't know, someone who started from the bottom and worked their way up, and then you got the hiring manager who is maybe the owner of the company. You can go find all that out and be prepared for who you're actually going to meet. You'll see their faces. And so when you walk in, there's actually going to be a level of familiarity with who you're interviewing with. But you also have opportunities where you can ask great questions because you know who you're meeting with. You also want to confirm the dress code. This is as simple as, like, even if you're interviewing for let's say a payroll administrator role, that could be at a manufacturing plant, and that manufacturing plant may actually have a dress code of specific ways that you need to dress in order to even go in there. So that maybe is something as restrictive as, oh, you have to have steel toe boots to show up to an interview. That's possible, but it could be as simple as you need to wear pants because you're going to get a tour of a manufacturing plant and they don't want dresses or any loose fitting clothes. So actually getting a dress code is more than just figuring out how to not be underdressed or overdressed, but it's also a safety thing. And so if you find out, hey, what is your dress code before an interview, it's going to just give you a lot more confidence that you're wearing the right stuff. Plus, like, I've seen people apply for a manufacturing job in like a full suit and tie tuxedo, and it's weird. So don't do that.
And they must feel kind of awkward to you walking into that and everyone's wearing more casual wear and you're just like, I'm ready for a night at the opera.
Yeah, it's just weird. So if you can find out, it's like, why not ask the extra question? The other thing, I'll point out 2 other things on here. One is, if someone offers you a glass of water or a cup of coffee, take it. Totally take it. That's immediately going to make the interview feel less formal and more casual, because maybe you have to walk down into the kitchen. Maybe you're going to meet some more people as you go through. But now you've got a chance while you're moving to chit chat a little bit. But the secondary part is, if you're talking a lot, I've literally seen this happen. And it's like the worst nightmare if you're an interviewer. You get pasties to a point where it starts like showing up in your mouth and you feel uncomfortable and you look uncomfortable. Take the glass of water. I totally do it. And then the other thing, I have actually had to give people feedback that they don't smell great. And this is the uncomfortable part of interviewing, but it's so true. If you've cooked fish or curries or certain foods that are very strong smelling, that could stick to your clothes. And when you walk into an interview, and it's the same with smoking, that could actually be something that's uncomfortable for the interviewer. The other thing to consider is, when we get nervous, we tend to sweat, and the odds of you having body odor go up just because you're interviewing. So making sure that you've taken a shower, making sure that you don't cook or eat something really strong smelling before you go to an interview, and making sure you have deodorant can literally make a difference. I've seen great candidates lose the job because they're so nervous waiting, and they stink when they get into the interview. It's true. So that's why it's there. It's stuff we all know, but I mean, it's helpful to have a checklist and just like think through these things. If you've got a great job opportunity, you don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. And that's the same even with, I think there's don'ts in the next section. If you want to scroll down, like even like avoid cologne and perfume. It's something that when we're getting ready for a date, maybe you want to put on some cologne or perfume, but for an interview, don't do it. You never know if you're going to walk in and the person who's hiring you is like, maybe allergic or just really doesn't agree with what you think is a good smell. So that's the first page here. There's a couple other things, but there's some do's and don'ts in your prep. If you want to go to the next page, and again, you can download this for free at our website. So I'll just walk through this without reading everything. Maybe I will. I don't know. How are we for time? Yeah, I'll get through this quick. You can read this yourselves. So most interviews are going to be behavioral. What that means is they're going to ask you a question like, tell me about a time when. The reason for this is past performance indicates future performance. I want to know how you're going to perform. And so I'm going to ask you about things you've done so I can understand how you might work in my office or in my department. And so the way that you can answer these questions is something called the Stair Method. You may have also heard of it called the STAR method. The only difference is the I. But what you're outlining is the context, and you're sharing all the information so that the person understands what you're talking about, so that when you're responding to a question, you're not leaving the person wondering. So what's tempting to happen is something like, tell me a time when you had a conflict with another employee. How did you handle it? And we're tempted to make the answer super concise because we don't want to bore the person. But what ends up happening is we'll maybe forget the context, like who we were talking to or why this conversation mattered or what we actually did. And so the STAIR method forces you to think ahead before you go into the interview about some stories you can tell and think through the details that a hiring manager actually needs to know to follow you. So you can say, oh, well, when I was working at McDonald's, I was a swing manager or a crew lead or whatever they're called today. And we had someone who came in late over and over again. And one of the things that we're supposed to be doing is serving our customers. And so he came in late again. That impacted the whole team. And if I didn't address it, the problem was going to be, A, B, C, and D would happen. So what I did is I pulled him in the back and I had a heart-to-heart with him. And in the end, he apologized and we found out that there was an issue he was having and we solved it. And now he comes to work all the time. Anyway, that is a story that if you leave out certain pieces, the hiring manager is just not going to understand. So this section of the downloadable guide is how to prepare some stories that are common questions to behavioral interviews and what the STAIR method actually is. You can go down to the next section, Melissa. Another one that, or another section on here, again, I won't go through all of these. We mentioned some of this last week, is you want to be prepared with good questions to ask the hiring manager. And so these are just some examples. We've got 7 good questions to ask, and then blank spots for you to fill in some job-specific questions as well. The one that I'm going to hone in on is number 3. This one's really good. You say to the hiring manager at the end of the interview, based on what you've heard from me today, do you think I could do this job? Like that right there is a game changer. The person will say one of 2 things. Yes, I think you can do this job, in which case maybe you get hired right on the spot. Great question. But they might say, I'm not sure. And if they say anything that is not confidence, that gives you an opportunity right then and there to find out what it is and address it. And like, well, I'm not sure. And then you can respond and be like, well, what aren't you sure about? Well, I'm just not sure that you have enough computer skills. And that gives you the opportunity to talk more about the computer skills. That question is a game changer, but all these questions will help you avoid not knowing, can I call them? Can I not? Do they like me? Do they not? And then the other tip that we brought up last week is if you can get the hiring manager talking about themselves for 20 minutes, makes your interview shorter and automatically puts you in a good light. You can go to the next page and we'll close this off. I'm conscious of the time. I just talk too much.
It's okay because
That's
I
all right.
don't know
Hopefully this is helpful. And again, if you're watching the replay of this, you can win $25. Tag a friend who may want some tips on how to interview or how to prepare a resume, how to get a job. Okay, so if you're virtual, I'm not going to go through each of these, but every single thing in this guide, even for the in-person, do it for your virtual. The same thing. Be ready early. I think there's a tip in there. Be ready 25 minutes early. Do that. If you're going to dress to impress, do that for a virtual interview. Even a phone interview when they can't see you, put on a suit and tie or put on a nice blouse or something and walk into that interview virtually with confidence, or even on the phone with confidence. But the big key for phone interviews and video interviews is to remove all of the distractions and to test any of your software first. If you're trying to do a virtual interview and your audio's not working, or your video's not working, or your video's looking up your nose, or if they're looking at the back of your head, it's just uncomfortable. And so you want to test all that stuff first and make sure that you're distraction free before the interview happens. So these are some tips for that. If you want to scroll down to the last part,
Yep.
There's some tips on what do you do if you don't know the answer. What do you do if you're asked to share a weakness? We got some tips there and a reminder to actually research the company. But let me finish with this one for the interview. So we talked about how to get the interview. You do that by a really targeted cover letter and a really targeted resume, and you can skip that whole process if you can network, which we talked about as well. Melissa mentioned that. But this is such an important tip, this last one here. The hiring manager who's interviewing you, they want to hire you. Like they're literally hoping you are the person they've been looking for. There is no hiring manager in their right mind who is like, I can't wait to interview the wrong person. I really hope the person shows up isn't good enough. I'm going to plan and try and find something wrong with this person. They're naturally going to try and find ways for you to fit. And so if you just remember that the reason they're bringing you in, giving up maybe an hour of their day, is they're hoping that you're the right person. That mind shift can really impact your confidence walking in, to just remember, like they want you to fulfill everything. Because if you fulfill everything, like if you're the person they think you are, you just save them maybe 4 or 5 other interviews, which is maybe 3 or 4 days, 4 or 5 hours. You save them money. If you're the right fit, you will be able to start quickly, which allows them to get more of their business objectives done. Like the hiring manager wants you to win the interview. Like they really, really do. So just remember that before you walk into an interview, and it can help you make sure that you're in the right frame of mind and actually be excited to meet the hiring manager, because like they're really excited for you to come in. So that's the last tip I had. But yeah, you can download this through the link that we've already commented, myaolcc.com/the-art-of-getting hired. And there's 2 links that Melissa's showing right now. All right. Do you want to close this off with whatever else is in your guide?
Yes, absolutely. So we have some quotes from last week, which I'm not going to read, but you should read because they're pretty good, from Jamie and then the 2 panelists that were with us. And then we wanted to close off with just talking about how we specifically help our students. And there are a couple of things. So we have our student support team, and our student support teams works with students from the moment they start their classes all the way to the very end of their classes and graduating, and then beyond. Like if you were with us last week, Cressida was talking about how she had someone who graduated 3 years ago ask them for a reference. And that's just stuff that we do all of the time. But there's also a program, there's a class that every student takes, no matter what program you're actually studying, called Job Search and Resume Writing. And there's a little blurb on here about what exactly that entails, but it's pretty much what the title says. You learn how to job search and you learn how to resume write, but it's not just a class. So you work alongside the student support team, and they'll give you feedback on your resume. They'll work with you on it. Maybe it's your first time writing a resume, so they could walk you through that whole process and just really help nail down exactly what that needs to look like in order to be prepared for, the job search. And they'll also help with interview preparation. And then this part right here is just also about as we mentioned above, employee networking, which is another way that we work to help our students find jobs because we want to get people in jobs. That's what we do. And then I think we had some lingering questions from last week that we just kind of wanted to address today, just to make sure that everyone got their questions answered. So the first one that is from last week is how to handle a gap in work on your resume or in an interview.
Yeah, so if you want to go open up that resume template, one of the
Yes.
cool things, and I think I briefly brought this up last week, a gap on a resume is way less of a big deal than you probably think it is, especially given the pandemic. But there's a couple things you can do. Obviously, I mentioned hiring managers want to know the month and date, the month and year of your role. If you have a gap, you don't have to put all that detail in. Like, you don't want to point out your gap. So if you didn't work for 9 months or a year and a half or something, and you can just put the year, I worked a job 2018 to 2019, and then I worked a job 2020 to 2021. The hiring manager may assume that you were working consistently throughout those 2 years, even though you may have had two gaps of like 9 months. So you can eliminate some of the detail in a resume so that you're not pointing out the gap. So there are ways to do that. The reality is, though, if it's obvious, you can put it in either your cover letter or you can put in your resume and actually state what you were doing. But there's a few, I guess, a few warnings. Don't put "I was in jail," even if you were. Don't put that on a resume. As much as that may be true, and you probably do need to address it, you'd much rather address that in person than have someone make up stories about what that means in your resume. So don't put that in. Also, don't put in anything that gives the impression that you're lazy. So, I was taking some time to just like work on myself. Hey, that sounds wonderful, but like that also sounds like laziness. So be careful how you word it. What you want to do, if you took some time to work on yourself, you want to say what you did. And there are probably some things that you did do during that gap that are going to be beneficial for the employer to know and can actually strengthen. So, for instance, you may have a gap because you went to school, right? Well, put that in there. I mean, you can put the dates of your schooling in. Not typically, we just put the graduation date of our education. But even if it's like all of our programs are 1 year, we've had
Mhm.
some students that they actually get delayed for whatever reason. I mean, life happens. And so there's some students where they're in the middle of a program, maybe they have a baby and they need to take time off, and that stretches out even to a little bit longer. Just because your program is officially 51 weeks or a year doesn't mean you have to have completed it in that. You can say you were going to school for 2 years if that was true. So you can actually put the start date and end date of your education, and then that's answering the gap. But even within that, you could put down maybe there are certain webinars or little tiny certificates or extra learning or books that you read or seminars that you attended during that time, and you can outline those things to say, hey, I have a gap, but here's what I was doing during that time, so that I was still productive. That's what an employer is going to look for. And you can put that either in your resume or you can put that in your cover letter. But if it's very small, I just wouldn't mention it. Like, you don't want to point out a potential problem. We call that a red flag. And you don't want to say, hey, look at my red flag. There's something that you're going to want to have questions about. So if it's minor, 9 months, a year, no one cares right now. If it's a little bit longer and you kind of have to address it, then you can either write something in your cover letter, or put it right as a job, make it written like a job, and explain what you're doing during that time. That'd be my tip for that. And I think maybe we'll just add it to the guide for the sake of time. What do you do during an interview? How do you talk about it? We found a really good link. I think it's from an article that got published through CNN, which I don't care what you think about CNN.
I'll add it to the resource guide.
Yeah, but it's if you've had a gap due to the pandemic, what do you do about it? It's a really good article. And rather than us just trying to rewrite the same things that they put in there, we'll just link that in the guide.
Yeah.
And what was the other question? Last question, Melissa?
That was the first two, and like how to represent your practicum on your resume. Do you just put it's practicum and then you do all the same things you would do for a job?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, like
okay. Easy peasy. Nice.
yeah, that's exactly what I do. I treat it like a job. You don't need to put like, so for instance, my job, I work at Academy of Learning, obviously. If I were to write this on a resume, I'm not going to put in brackets paid, like
Yeah, I
that
guess that's what
salary
you do.
position. I'm also probably not even going to put if it's part-time or full-time. Like, just it's unnecessary. I'm going to put I was working from this date to this date. If I'm on a practicum site, I could put it as practicum, but it's not necessary. So, I mean, maybe your job title is practicum student. So just write it in there, but have it be in the same section of your professional experience. So it's not your education, it's actually work experience. If
Yeah.
you put in your education section, it is going to naturally be assumed, oh, it probably wasn't hands-on or real, which is a dumb thing to assume anyway. But you never know. So if you put it in your professional experience, it looks like a job, and then it's up to the employer to try and guess whether you were paid or not. Some practicums are paid, or internships are paid internships. Some aren't. Who cares?
Yeah.
So yeah, just treat it like any other job.
Okay. Boom, that was easy. And that's the last question. So we're all done.
Sweet, and we're right at 2 o'clock. So that was long. I feel tired now. I do have a question for everybody. Is if you want to hear about how to negotiate a salary, let us know in the comments, because we can probably put together a guide on how to get a raise or how to negotiate a salary, because that can be tricky when you're maybe desperate for a job and you just kind of want to take anything, but you don't want to leave anything on the table. So if that's interesting, let us know, because we're obviously planning out live streams for the coming future. We are not going live next week. And because of that, maybe we'll do the $25 gift card award on Friday and give all day Thursday, especially since we had some technical difficulties and where we said we were going live didn't happen. So I thought, Galen, I thought you were going to say negotiating salary info would be awful. I'm glad you say awesome. So maybe we'll put that together. But yeah, if you can think of anybody who could appreciate a how to interview guide, how to write a resume, and any of the advice from today's, tag them in the comments. You've got until end of day Thursday to tag somebody in the comments of this video, wherever you're watching. If you're watching us on Facebook, any of our Facebook pages, or on YouTube, tag somebody. That gets you entered to win $25. And Melissa, you'll announce that on Friday.
Okay, noted.
Okay.
It will happen.
Awesome. Other than that, thanks, Melissa, for putting this together. And until next time.
Yeah.
Right?
See you guys soon.
See ya.
Bye.